Here we are. So for this next session, I'll have the pleasure to introduce you to two Andys, who are two of my esteemed colleagues. So Andy Dovgan, that you've seen in a prior talk with Devi, is our Chief Growth Officer. Andy has more than 15 years of experience working with SaaS companies, a large experience, of course, working directly with Creatio customers, and has worked with all organizations that you can think of all around the globe, working as well a lot in EMEA and with financial services organization. And the second Andy Zambito, hi Andy, is our Chief Sales Officer Americas, who has worked at several different companies such as Pinpoint and Vera, also leading worldwide sales teams and being a Chief Revenue Officer, so also being directly working closely with our customers, trying to help them, tackle and solve them challenges. And I'm sure you're going to have some great insights from both of them, and how to create a no-code bank of the future. So Andy, the floor is yours, and I'll see you in a moment.
Thank you so much.
Andy, nice to see you. So it will be very easy to follow this presentation because our name is almost identical. So the one with really good deep voice is my friend Andy Zambita, the one with funny accent is me. So it's easy to follow. Let me go ahead and start sharing our deck, and we'll be on the ground in a second. All right, so we have a really interesting topic to discuss with you guys. So we are talking about creating a no-code bank of the future, right? And today within this presentation, we're gonna cover three major aspects of that. So we will take a little bit of time and tell our perspective on what is going on with the industry, what are the challenges and perspectives that we have in the industry, and why it's now a good time for you to move into this no-code future. After that, we will touch upon having this freedom of owning your automation and really utilizing a no-code approach in your organization. And we'll finish up with an overview of possible digital workflows that can be implemented and deployed in your industry. So we go from more industries down to concept, down to very practical recommendations. So let me kick off the conversation from the challenges. And I believe that Davey already mentioned a number of those, and they are very loud. Lots of industry experts and lots of analysts are talking about those, that right now the industry is going through a tremendous change, right? And as we briefly touched upon on this with Davey, the time to act or the time to change is now. And there are a number of pressures that kind of forcing those changes. And when we think about those, we usually think about increasing competition, ever-changed customer demand, and expectations of our customers, a little bit different workplace and environments that our employees expect from us as professionals in this space, but also specifics of accessing to the data. We already had this conversation about neobanks and about fintech and about all those changes that are going on in the industries. And of course, here are some really great and strong data points that demonstrate that from a customer acquisition point of view, neobanks and fintech organizations are growing really fast. And there is no surprise. One of the reasons why they have this ability to capitalize on this customer acquisition and really increase their presence and the market share is because they don't have legacy, right? They don't have those constraints and limitations that are usual for traditional financial services organizations. And with not having those constraints and with not having those limitations, of course, they can introduce changes much quicker. Like today, the focus of our discussion is mostly on technology, right? Imagine how easy it is to deploy a technology if you don't have your legacy core banking system, or you don't need to go through this painful process of integration with 12 or 18 different technologies and different data points. Of course, it's just a much different time to value. So no surprise that neobanks and fintech in general are growing and becoming a significant force in the market. Now, when we kind of change a little bit of our perspective and we look at a different kind of angle, we see that our customers are also not the same as they used to be, right? Before 5-10 years ago, the overall expectations around financial services were relatively straightforward. So not much personalization was expected. And also, we didn't expect our banks or credit unions to know all those kind of data points about us and go deep in personalizing our offers. But now, according to multiple research data points, we see that not only our consumers and even business customers expect from us Amazon type of service, seamless, digital, hyper-personalized, very quick, right? But also they feel like the types of products and types of services offered by the current banks is not enough. It's a too narrowed range, and it's not customized to fit their specific needs and their specific expectations. And then we also have a big rise of new generations of buyers that have different agendas and different approach. And for them to move from one bank to another and to switch them, it's never been that easy. So the customer is in control, and we just have to admit it and have to raise our standards as high as we can to be competitive and relevant on the marketplace. But then when we look a little bit more on our employees and our workforce, we also see some significant changes and some significant constraints. So based on some research, we see that a number of applications that are being used by a relationship manager in a branch of a regular bank has been increased from 8 to 11. So imagine that our relationship managers need to go through 11 different applications to complete their workflow. It's a lot. And then we also see that some of our workers are spending more than an hour a day by only switching between tabs. So this is an incredibly big productivity loss. And then we also have a new generation of employees that just expect you to have those digital TikTok, Instagram-like applications, because they don't see a difference between business world and then our kind of regular life, right? So that's why they are ready to work only for those companies that equip them with modern technologies. And just to illustrate you how difficult this can go, we just decided to take one of the simple process of customer onboarding and illustrate, even within automated scenario, how many applications and how many different solutions we need to switch. And this one, again, with already a number of modern systems in place. So as you're going through onboarding of your new customer, you start working with the request and you mix between CRM and core banking system. Then you go through client due diligence and you have CRM, your enterprise content management, core banking, KYC application. Then you go to the credit term setup, and that's where you use core banking and risk management. Then work with agreements through e-signature, ECMs, and then you set up accounts in the system, right? So it's even in this scenario, there's a constant kind of switch and constant necessity to work within multiple applications. And of course, it should be, by the way, we should equip our employees with a more productive and efficient approach. And then let's, for a moment, take a head of executive leaders, of managers of those banks. So we see that still there's a big chunk of leaders that don't feel like they have enough of data to make educated decisions. They don't have enough of information, and the data is not fully integrated so that they can go and decide on new strategies, new processes, new suggestions, right? And even with all those efforts done, we still are not even 50% there, according to multiple data points. So as you can see, this pressure is coming from all possible angles. And it's not gonna get better. So for that, let us quickly come back to you guys. We know that you represent the industry and you have lots of things to say. And we have a quick poll for you that will be launched momentarily. So we want to ask you, what is your major challenge in your bank in 2021? So are you mostly concerned about fintech disruption, about ever-growing customer expectations, or employee productivity? Or you might be concerned about legacy technology and data visibility, or there is another thing that you're mostly focused on. So, Andy Zambita, what do you believe is now the most important challenge within the industry?
Oh, wow. Well, you put me on the spot there. I would probably say, for me, I've talked to a lot of banks. There's the combination of the second and third are quite strong, meaning a lot of organizations have spent a lot of attention on the customer expectation, trying to make that customer experience great, and their employees are really focused on doing and delivering that. Yet the tools that they have internally create incredible degrees of frustration and challenge amongst their own internal employees. So I think for a lot of organizations, my guess is maybe number three might surprise us about in the answers here. But I'm certainly fascinated to see, because depending on, I think, where you are in the world and which angle in banking you focus on, fintech disruption is right there knocking at the door as well.
Yeah, I also agree with you. I think that employee productivity is super important part. And I remember a conversation with one of our customers here in the US, and he is a chief experience officer in a major credit union, and his point was just spot on. He mentioned to me in one of the discussions that, look, we work really hard on giving our customers this easy to use applications. Right. When we think about like mobile banking and all the technologies that we want our members to touch, they should be super easy to use. But when we think about our employees, why our approach should be different? Why our employees should be equipped with something that is different? Why do we expect them to have this outdated, like 90 years old kind of technologies that it takes ages to understand? So I do agree with you. Employee productivity is a very significant piece. I'm not sure whether we can see the results of the poll on our screen.
It looks like in the chat, Andy, we're getting live updates here, and right now, technology and data visibility is growing. It looks like with number 2 being the employee productivity, at least in the last update I saw.
Okay, yeah, I see the same. I see that it's a combination of technology and data visibility, number 1, and then employee productivity. So if you want to elevate your technological maturity and discover new technology, you're certainly in the right place.
Wonderful.
Okay, so let's move on. Hopefully we'll see the final results, and let's move on to our new chapter.
Sure.
So Andy, take it.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in here as well. You were kind about the voice comment. I've often been told I have a face for radio, so let's at least the voice matches. So when we talk about we've talked about these trends on some of the challenges side of it, but let's talk about the technology as was just evidenced by the poll there, and the interest in data and technology. And there are certainly some major technological trends that banking is jumping on right now. We'll obviously be talking about no-code configuration quite a bit, and that's near and dear to us. But other areas there's a lot of movement towards how do we have better communications, whether that's with artificial intelligence and chatbot, or with reaching the customers where they are through omni-channel, and being able to change omni-channel, not just start in one location, but move from chat to live and seamlessly back and forth. This creates a big pressure on having integrated cybersecurity. We're dealing with many more avenues of communication, and therefore we're sharing a lot of sensitive information. And with all those different access points, we have to have one. The customer is not going to allow for multiple checkpoints throughout this, right? And then all of this leads to business process automation. And if I look through the rest, I think machine learning is an interesting one, because organizations, we saw access to data being a concern. At the same time, banks are pressured, saying, I live on top of all of this data. Can I make better use of it? Can I push more to the cloud? And then, of course, the ever present conversations around blockchain of these new emerging technologies, which have great promise, but many organizations aren't really orchestrated to deal with right away. So you have all of these technological trends, and when you really step back and look at them, I think they showcase the more macro trends that tie into our earlier conversation about all of those are really about ultimately delivering, or the promise of them is to deliver that hyper-personalized experience. How do I talk to you where you are in a way that you want to be talked to, in that mechanism and on relevant data? Can I move you through the processes of the organization seamlessly? And can the folks that are interacting with you do that with one screen? I mean, gone are the days where somebody's like, hold on, I need to go check another system, and that your customers are going to be tolerant about that. And the last one about everyone being a developer, I think that macro trend, though, is really in saying, we need to engage our employees, our constituents differently, not as just a data point in an IT discussion of gathering information, but really bringing them to the forefront of knowing what the customer wants and needs, and can they directly impact that. So those are some macro trends that I think are very dominant from that technology. And this brings about the what we would talk about as the ultimate synergy in this no-code bank of the future. And on the left-hand side, you're seeing really all that relevant experience that, frankly, for many of us who have been at this for a long time, this was the original promise of CRM and technology. And the vision for many years ago is, imagine a world where you could have that 360-degree view of your customer at any one point in time, have that real-time engagement with that customer, whether it be in a teller circumstance or now a mobile app, and have it be super personalized to them. On the other side of this, of course, is all of that seamless digital workflow. This doesn't work. We can't deliver on this promise if we're not in a seamless environment where the data flows just naturally through the different touch points. If we're siloed and not orchestrated, it just doesn't work. And so all of this promise is for that ultimate synergy of the future. So let's talk about the freedom for you as an institution and as individuals in that institution to own your automation. And this speaks to when we step back a moment, there's an overarching challenge that for those of us who've kind of been in technology for a long time, we have this accelerating group of knowledge workers in the world. This is now, we're stepping away from just thinking about specific banking. We're talking about software in general, right? We have us on the business side, we have consumers, we are consumers, 1.7 billion knowledge workers in the world today. And we've created a demand for over 500 million apps, or a million ways to interact. And it just doesn't work anymore. In a world where there's only 25 million developers, the prior ways of delivering technology just frankly are broken and won't support supply and demand going forward. So something in this model has to change. And so what is it that is most logical to change to address this? Well, if you talk to the analyst community, and I apologize if the slides aren't updating in real time. Here we go. All right, so if we talk to the analyst community, they've already projected that in technology terms, this is today, right? By 2024, so in the next 2.5 to 3 years, low-code application development will be 65% of application development. So think about that, going from a world where it's a new concept and topic to, in 3 years, again, in technology terms, that might as well be tomorrow. And that is, again, because of that supply and demand equation. So we're at the very front end of that, because today, only between 7 and 8% of this development has been done by low-code developers. So there's this immense need, and there's this amazing capability to do so. And it's a matter of really adopting it, and how quickly do organizations adopt it, because the rest of the world is moving this way. Will we be a part of it? Will all of us be a part of it? Now, I'll date myself a bit here, because when you think about when I entered the world of technology and software, we were still doing custom software development. And why were we doing that? Well, people had very unique challenges, and the best way to get what I want is I'm going to speak with that developer, I'm going to hire some third party, or I'll bring on that team, and we're going to build exactly what we need. We all know what came from that. It was a really long tail event. By the time we deployed it, we already had change requests piling up, and it was a constant kind of chasing our tail, and super costly to our organization. We built up large teams, or we had these large third parties. And eventually, many organizations kind of said, let's go the way of off-the-shelf, commercial off-the-shelf software. Let's go for packaged applications. Well, there was a trade-off for that, right? We were able to get to market faster. Hey, they've already built a lot of what I need. But the reality is it's maybe only 70% of what I need. So now I have this challenge of, okay, I have to accept that I'm not going to get all of it. And now I have to align with that organization and believe, is their roadmap, is their direction, is that aligned with my vision as best as it can? But I get this, at least this industrial strength third party who's at least minding the store and making sure it's up and running. The advent of no-code technology, and why I get personally so excited by this, is normally there is this trade-off in technology. I'm going to sacrifice all these capabilities for speed or some other trade-off. And in this case, no-code offers the ability to take the best elements of both of these while eliminating the biggest constraint. I can have all of the control of a custom development and get uniquely what I need, while also having the speed, cost advantages, and industrial strength nature of a packaged solution. So I now can engage where everyone is a developer. I can bring my own team's business analysts to bear. We can fit those requirements. We can reduce our silos, and we can change at rapid pace. It really is the best of both worlds colliding by this challenge. So what is a no-code company? I mean, we talk about it a lot. It is a digital-first organization where everyone in the organization plays a part in that development focus of what are we going to build, why are we going to build it, why is it going to operate the way it does. And the term that's being used now is that citizen developer. It's really just about engaging your citizenry and being able to move quickly for both new apps and processes. I can't emphasize how important the process side of this is. If you're just proliferating applications and technology, you're not really getting at the heart of what makes your business unique. And why is it different from some other business? Why is it valued differently, have different loyalty, different brand awareness? So we often get asked that question of, okay, so all of what you said is amazing, mom and apple pie. How do I go about doing that? And so when we think about this, is not a massive jumping off a cliff transformation. It really does follow a sequence of events that are embraceable by an organization. And the first one is just culturally accepting the fact that this is the future that we're going to have. Engaging our business to just kind of document back and forth requirements is very different than saying we're going to engage them to be a part of this development process. And we're breaking down the barriers. We're saying as an organization, we're transformative. It's not you handle this and we handle this over here. It's one organization, one culture. And when you do that, then of course you need to then bring in no-code technology into your strategy. When it becomes a part of your strategy, you will find that the tactics and the execution will follow. But if it's not there, you certainly can't. It's kind of a prerequisite, if you will. Now, from a governance policy standpoint, there is a slight shift. And it's a minor one. It's instead of IT kind of controlling all this with kind of very rigid rollout structures, which may or may not be disruptive to the business, it's about saying who in the organization should have the ability and power to do which elements. Just think of role-based security in some of your other applications, and think about this in a broader spectrum of impacting the business from a no-code fashion. The delivery policies of how frequently do we want these updates? It allows for the ability now to do rapid iteration inside of the business, which is non-disruptive to your core technologies. This is not the old concept of we have to stop the presses at midnight to roll things out because it's going to be disruptive. This actually is quite the opposite and allows you, just like SaaS technology allows a vendor to roll out technology to all of the customers without any disruption. This allows your organization to operate that way now with your customers and kind of turn your business, a banking model, into more of a SaaS. How are we continuously bringing improvement without the disruption? You're able to then build a center of excellence where you continuously educate the teams. Yeah, sorry, I'll just wrap that up. And then, of course, mentor them through how does everybody get more and more embraced, as you'll always have early adopters, and then you want to bring the rest of the organization along with you. So that leads to our next poll. And I'll be curious here, but where are you in your no-code journey? If, as all those things we talked about are happening to us all in real time, whether we want them to or not, how is your organization embracing it, and where are you in this? Are you already down a path where you fully embrace this and you're doing quite a bit of work in this, or are you just now starting to actively implement this? Perhaps you're starting the journey and having those conversations, or frankly, this is a net new area for you and you're saying, okay, we have to do something and we're not yet started, and we're going to have those conversations. I don't know, Andy, for the audience today, do you have a hypothesis as to which answer will be the strongest?
Yeah, you know, we recently did a big, as you know, Andy, report, low code, no code, like state of the market report, and we realized that majority of the audience was in those initial stages of the journey. But we don't know who has joined us, probably because it's a no-code event. Probably there are lots of people that already advanced. But there are two questions that I wanted to talk briefly about that were mentioned in the chat, and I believe they represent a really interesting points. And those are the questions that we usually hear from our customers. So the first question is about how do you make sure that your low-code, no-code development doesn't turn into a digital anarchy? And by saying that, I believe that the biggest concern is mostly coming from IT departments and people that are responsible for administering and governing the ecosystem. And it's a very usual concern, because if you allow anybody to create those applications and digitize those processes, well, they will go and create lots of unconnected and even dangerous apps. So how to prevent it? And I believe that there are a few fundamental points and few recommendations. And then I'm sure Andy will be able to add his perspective.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I mean, I think of it this as don't think of it as you're letting everyone loose inside the factory to start building things. It's really first and foremost about embracing your citizenry about the art of the possible. Because when your business users understand what they are capable of doing, they can have they'll be a more active participant in those conversations, whether they're ultimately the one who's putting fingers on keyboards to do this or not. You ultimately will still have business analysts that are more technically minded folks that are in the business themselves, where you may want to start with an authorization of this is where that'll take place. But by engaging the business and having them be aware of and be functionally proficient in understanding it, they can play a very active role in saying, hey, let's have a working session. I had these great ideas. I know that this is capable because of the other sessions we've had. Can we deploy this? And then you might have a small team that's responsible for the fingers on keyboards, particularly in the early days, because anarchy is certainly not the goal of this. At the same time, I'm also seeing any real-time results, and it's really interesting. We have clearly a winner here. Over 50%, by 55% are saying that they're at the starting point right now in the journey. Only about 10% so far say they haven't started at all. So we have a lot of folks that have already come on board with embracing this and are trying to now wrap their arms around it. And it looks like about 35% are somewhere already down the path of the journey, which I think aligns very well with kind of that Gartner prediction about where we'll be over the next 3 years, because it's not an overnight transition for everyone. But it looks like, at least with today's audience, not a lot of laggards that at least haven't begun those conversations.
It's exciting. It's exciting. So I also wanted to add a few points in regards to deploying a right citizen development program at your company. I'll make a few references and we will move on. We'll certainly talk on this topic later today in our sessions. So if you haven't read yet, please check out one of the most recent Forbes articles actually written about Creatio, how we implemented a no-code approach internally. We like to drink our own champagne, and we have been using no-code developers and have a very well thought no-code embracing strategy internally. Secondly, I also suggest you go and read materials from John Bradenkevic or from Jason Wong. John is from Forrester, Jason is from Gartner, and they have created tons of incredible materials around like how do you create a citizen development program? How do you make sure that the right people are being deployed? How do you ensure the review process and the deployment process? Lots of great stuff. So the good news is that it's still a pretty new subject. So there are lots of people that are contributing, but there are a lot of already foundational pieces being put together. So it's not that kind of a wild journey. And I think that no code is about democracy. not anarchy. And democracy does have guardrails and securities and controls to make sure that everyone can feel the freedom, but in the same time, your freedom is not restricted by someone else's freedom. So we will move on to the final piece of our presentation, and here we'll talk a little bit more about specific deployments and digital workflows that can be automated. You know what? Usually, when we are talking about no code, and as you can see from this presentation, we are very excited about this topic because it's a significant change, is a big revolution that is happening in the market. And of course, we want to convince and convert all of you who haven't been converted yet to be followers of this no-code revolution. But the very pragmatic questions that we usually get from the audience is, where do I start, right? So you guys talk about the citizen development and those processes and those technologies. So where I can exactly deploy this application or approach, and where do I start? And for that, we put together what we call a digital workflow map for banking institutions, where you can see different, say, layers of the organization. So we have CRM, which is more customer-facing aspect of the business. We have front office automation, everything that is happening with product originations and actually serving the customer. We have middle office processes, and we also have corporate services aimed on employees of, say, a bank. And you can see there are lots of overlapping workflows that kind of sit between multiple areas. And you can see that we have kind of a wide range of different workflows that can be deployed. So what we suggest, you can mark each of those workflows for yourself and set up one of three options. Like, is this fully manual? Is this somehow automated through emails and some legacy systems or Excel files? Or do you have state-of-the-art technology to automate this workflow? Of course, the goal is to have the state-of-the-art technology being deployed in all areas of the business. So let's probably dig a little bit deeper into a specific outcomes and specific use cases that you can entertain and you can deploy for your organization. So end-to-end customer journey automation, that's where you are creating a single customer view. You're creating a consolidated UI to engage with your customers, both business organizations and private individuals, in a very relevant way. When you can, in 1 second, to see all the needed information, all the relevance that is on time with the right insight that can help you to turn that conversation into a meaningful consultation. We have next best actions, next best offers, and some other recommendations that are based on the data, but still take into account a deeply personalized approach. That's where you can use digital campaigns to drive customer acquisitions. We know that customer acquisition is a big priority for a lot of credit unions and banks and financial services companies, and that's where you also connect with your customers after the deal is completed to provide them with ongoing services and help them to address their issues and support the digital journey. So then another big aspect is front and middle office process excellence. So we all know that in a larger, specifically financial organizations, there are lots of steps that you need to go through, and there are lots of kind of connected workflows that you need to complete to get to a decision, because there are lots of risks that should be taken into consideration. And our goal is to provide you with a technology that allows you to move really quickly and seamlessly through those workflows without increasing the risk, but making sure that an organization can act as one and you can make all those quick decisions. We are doing that through flexible automation of your workflows using multiple tools. And of course, we help organizations to increase control, compliance, and transparency of operations. Everything related to know your customer, anti-money laundering, new regulations that are coming into play in different areas and geographies, and helping you to make quick decisions, but in the meantime, make sure that those decisions are well thought and well organized and well managed. So today, in our great event, we're going to touch upon multiple areas of those workflows, right? So we will talk about consumer-focused workflows. We'll talk about business customer-focused workflows, about middle office operations, and others. So when we boil down the benefits and the advantage of using no-code approach and automating your digital workflows, we usually talk about three major categories of those advantages. Increasing customer experience, because we all understand that the customer is a king, right? And we want to make sure that they have great level of engagement and great level of support to our organization. And we do that through responding to customers quickly, driving that customer experience. We are increasing operational excellence by increasing productivity and delivering seamless and more efficient operations. And of course, we increasing capacity of your IT organizations and delivering better flexibility. Because if I can engage my citizen developers to create those applications, and I can check, verify, and deploy them, then I can, with the same amount of people, I can deploy much more applications, and I can go to this digital world in a much quicker pace. And I wanted to share with you a few examples of what we've done with some prominent customers of ours and about their no-code journey. So this journey is with Bank GYT. It's one of the largest banks in Guatemala, in Central America. And you can see that the bank completed a number of steps in their journey. The important fact is that all of this automation is being managed by a small internal team of low-code and no-code developers. So the organization haven't initiated the process with a large implementation with outside company. They have done everything in-house with certain help and certain support, but they gained the full control and the full freedom over deploying those use cases and workflows. They started with a smaller user group for loan management for individual and businesses, then got promoted to vehicle loan management, compliance and complaints processes, new account openings for businesses and individuals, and then moved to a credit cards automation workflows, right? All this journey happened in just a few months, right? So the company was able to scale it up from just 100 of users up to a few thousands, and now almost the entire organization uses Creatio for multiple workflows, and more importantly, does have this ability to go and deploy new use cases and new workflows. And similar example is with End Credit Union, and they have also an impressive no-code journey when they started with just handful of users for indirect member acquisition, a very specific use case that was completed, and then the application got scaled up to a much more workflows, mostly related to customer engagement and customer experience. What is important about End Credit Union is that you can see it's an enterprise-wide deployment that is being supported with just a small team of 3 experts, no-code developers, that deploys those applications and workflows quite rapidly and maintain control over the platform, right? So to launch those technologies, to launch those workflows, you don't need to have a massive team. You don't need to invest into building up another 300 people IT shop to be able to keep up with the demand. The modern technologies allow you to achieve that and kind of get it done more efficiently. So those are one of many stories that we love collecting from our customers, and we hope that one day we'll be able to write a story with you. And to close down our session today, which is not, of course, end of the event, it's just the very beginning of the event, we wanted to ask you a question. We wanted to ask you what workflows are the most relevant for you. So we have a number of options. Those are consumer related, business customer related, customer experience related, governance and compliance, corporate functions and middle office, as well as land and loan recovery and payments. So it would be great to know which area is of a big importance for you. AZ, so what are your thoughts? Based on your conversations with your customers, where do you see the most traction?
Wow, this we've got so many options here that are all good. I think the customer experience might show up quite heavily, although I just got off a call before the session and it was around governance and compliance. So even I can be wrong on this. I think it's going to be whatever is top of mind for as a challenge for that particular institution. All of these are areas where various degrees of automations have likely been put in place. And I think different banks have grown up with different cultural areas of focus. And so I think we're going to get an even spread. I don't think any one answer is going to jump off, but let's see if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so so far we see 50% for customer experience, as you rightly said.
You see, I'm wrong.
No, but you started with that, so we'll give you credit. And then 33% goes to governance and compliance, and 16.7% for consumer workflow. So yeah. Great stuff. I think that with that in mind, this brings us to the end of our session.
Well, thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Have a wonderful rest of the day during the rest of our presentations. A lot of great content coming your way.
Enjoy the no-code day for financial services industry.
Well, thank you, Andy and Andy. I'll talk to you soon.